For the money.
Okay.
Oh, I think we're live. It says
Oh
live.
no!
Look, right there.
Well, stop talking. Hey there, hi there, ho there. Wedgies. I can't read the. I'm wearing trifocals. I can't see the rest of it. Mr. Martinez.
Trying to find which lens to look out of.
All right. Well, welcome to the podcast. It's Are You Shitting Me? TMI, the podcast. As always, I'm Mike in Amarillo.
And I'm Ron here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
I have to turn him up a little bit. All right, and I apologize because I wasn't able to get a promo done today. We know we're failing in that area. I don't know. Did you get one out today?
I didn't get one out all week.
Oh my Lord, what is wrong with us? How do we expect this thing to grow?
If I were me, I'd fire myself.
I'm out the door. I'm going to take myself outside and kick my own ass.
That's it.
There. Anyway, listen, we're glad you're here. Those that are jumping on and those that will jump on later. Ronnie and I just visiting backstage, as we like to say, and fun conversations about our childhood. And so that's what we're doing.
You know, it's funny, Mike, you talk about, people hopping on and hopping on later. We never really know who's watching us. And I'm going to give you a point in fact. I went out today to go do an estimate for a client of mine. She's a friend of ours. Yeah, we've talked about Karen before. Her husband Bob passed away about 5-6 years ago. But
yeah,
we went out there and I told her, I said, Karen, I said, do you ever watch our podcast? And I said, no. I said, I think I remember seeing you say something, but it's like 7-8 months ago that she did. It's been a long time. She goes, no, I watch your podcast every week. She goes, I may be at home cooking dinner or doing something, but it's on my phone playing while I'm doing whatever. I'm like, okay. And no different than Uncle Jack in Montana. I mean, he watches it religiously. He may not watch it on Thursday, but he says my Saturday morning is I get up, have my cup of coffee, and I watch TMI, the podcast on YouTube. So we may have more followers than we think we have.
Well, and I don't doubt that. Keep it going for a second. I've just thought of something.
Yeah, no.
It's somebody we've mentioned on the show before. I need to get a picture ready.
So I was, I held this up, my Wedgies card. So for those of you that don't know, I have a handyman and remodeling business here in Las Vegas, and we got called out to do a job in a little town called Mesquite, Nevada, which is about an hour drive north of here, just on the Utah-Nevada border. So I took me and 3 of my guys, and we got there and did some work at the Casablanca Hotel. Well, they were nice enough to comp us some rooms at one of their other properties, the Virgin River. So as we're there, me and two of the guys with me want to go grab a bite to eat. So we're like, okay, well, and Mesquite's like, this big, size of my finger, tiny place. And so we started looking up sports bars because I like to have a beer, maybe play a machine while I'm having my cheeseburger or whatever. And we come across this place, Wedgies. So we go into Wedgies, and I meet this bartender, just cool as shit, dude. And I'm sorry if you're watching, forgive me, I can't remember your name, but he was the epitome of a 30-year-old hippie. And for those of you that have ever been around hippies, you know what I'm talking about, man. It's peace, love, joy, the whole 9 yards. I went to shake his hand. I went out like this, shake his hand, and he straight gave me the old bro smack. He's like, man, peace, brother. Peace, brother. I'm cracking up laughing. So I held on to the card. So I have a player's card now. If I ever go back to Wedgies in Mesquite, Nevada.
Well, I am, listen, we've talked about Uncle Ken on the show before.
Oh, yeah.
As the picture I was trying to get ready, so I don't have to pull a Ron here. I should have thought about doing this earlier, but for those that are wondering,
hey,
that's
Uncle Ken.
That's me and the now infamous Uncle Ken. He stopped by earlier today. He was on his way to the Springs, but
That'd be Colorado Springs for the lay person.
For those that don't know. Anyway, but I have to tell you real quick, the reason why I pulled that up, I don't want people to think we just gone crazy, which we may have.
Start making up people.
So, I get these like drive-through visits from Uncle Ken every 4, 5, 6 months. And that's what today was. And so I show up there, and one of the first things Uncle Ken asks, "So you and Ron doing the podcast tonight?" I kid you not. It's one of the very first things he asks is, "Hey, you and Ron doing the podcast tonight?" And then I called him just a little bit ago to, I told him, I said, "Well, this is my welfare check." And he said, "Oh, good. I need one." And he said, "Well, I know where he's going. I don't want to say, but he says, I should be there pretty soon. And so I'll either be watching or listening or asleep." My suspicion is, knowing him, he's probably tuned in. So
Probably.
Anyway, love you, Uncle Ken. And look, man,
Ditto.
I'll take him any way I can get him. So I'm good.
I think
So
that's go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I thought tonight there's a method to the madness. Disposable today versus fixing it then. And I want to preface that a little bit by praising my co-host and my brother. Ron has always been something of a Mr. Fix-It kind of a guy, and it goes back to his youth. Ronnie used to take shit apart. Even if it was working, he would take it apart because he wanted to know how it worked. One of the coolest things, and I don't think I've ever told him this, one of the coolest things I have seen my brother do. I didn't get to watch him do it, but I know what he did. I believe you and Mom were living in an apartment. You had some kind of a truck or SUV or something, and you rebuilt the engine in the parking lot of where you lived.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's amazing to me.
I've rebuilt 2 engines in my life, and ask me how many more I'll build.
No, none.
0.
So,
no. But you know what, Mike? I gotta thank Dad Archie and Dad Dell for that, because Dad Archie was, besides being a machinist, he was just what's the best way to describe Dad? I mean, just a perfectionist. I mean, everything that guy did had to be within like a 32nd of a millimeter correct.
If he was he was the proverbial jack of all trades.
Oh yeah,
he took it a step further. Yes, he was a jack. He mastered everything he tried.
Yeah.
And it was the coolest thing to see. And I've said this before, we've said it on the podcast, you clearly paid more attention to that crap than I did.
Well, I think also, Mike, it's mostly because, by that time coming around, you were already pretty much gone out of the house by that time. And then, it was just me. And so anything went wrong or got broken, it was Dad and I, and that was it. And we'd either fix it or call somebody that knew how to fix it. And that's the one thing. Shut up, Michelle.
Wait,
anyway,
I sense there may be a story there, Ron.
Anyway, but yeah, that's how I learned a lot. I'm going to tell you one of my first memories of fixing something. You remember the Cattlers that lived next door to us, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Mrs. Cattler, I had gone over to the house to visit Lara, and Mrs. Cattler's vacuum cleaner wasn't working. So what did I do? I took it apart, figured out why it wasn't working, put it back together. And she's the same thing. She goes, "How did you know how to do that?" I'm like, "I didn't. I took it apart. I watched the process of taking it apart and found out that the belt was broken. You got a new belt, put the belt on, put it back together in the reverse order, and voila." But I digress.
What happens when you end up what I call kidneys and tonsils? When you end up with like an extra screw or something, and you're going, "Oh God."
Oh, extra screw my ass. When I rebuilt the 351 Windsor motor in my 79 Ford Bronco when I lived in Lake Tahoe, I had you ever see those small buckets you buy at Home Depot or Lowe's about this big? Yeah. I had one full of nuts, bolts, washers, you name it, full of it after I was done. But ran like a champ.
There you go.
So I lost a little weight.
See, that's what I call kidneys and tonsils. I'll put something like the dryer. The last time I fixed our dryer, I ended up with this plastic piece, and I thought, oh great, this is probably some important thing, and the thing was together and running, and I just figured, if it's important, it'll rear its ugly head at some point. It's been running fine since then.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, well. So, but I did. And in fact, another one was, my planer. And I want to get into some of these stories, but I want to explain why. And it's part and parcel to why I wanted to get to the disposable today versus fixing it then. And it's because, I think things like YouTube, video help, of whatever these resources we have today,
Sure.
Tends to make things either disposable or it'll provide you opportunity on how to do something. But here's the thing, and I hate using the term back in the day, but here we're talking about
so we're talking about
automotive repair, right?
Oh, the Chilton's books. Amen. I still have a set of those in my garage.
See, and we didn't do anything without referencing Chilton's.
You're going right up an alley that if it's man, it's so funny how your brain and I work in two different states. So you talk about, fixing it now or fixing it then and, disposable now. So my neighbor across the street, John, good family. He had an issue with his shower cartridge. Mm-hmm. And he comes over, he says, "Hey, Ron, would you mind giving me a hand? I know this is what you do for a living. Can you give me a hand changing this out?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." He's like, so I go over there and I start tearing it all apart. And he's like, "I never saw this in the video." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I watched a YouTube video how to do this, and none of this took place." I said, "Let me tell you something about YouTube videos and do-it-yourself help videos. Those are best case scenario videos. They don't show you what happens when the bonnet nut that goes around the Delta cartridge won't let loose because of all of the composites that are built up around it and how to get that off. Or if you have to cut it off, where do you go buy a new one? Just all these things that you just have no. And he's like, "Yeah," he goes, "I would have been completely lost." So, it's nice that we have those nowadays. In my personal opinion, a lot of that stuff just makes us lazy human beings, but it's nice to at least have them for the ones that want to learn and want to know how to do it, and it's available.
But I think, and we've taught, and this is sort of the premise behind what we do on the podcast, is there is a difference between then and now. And I hate to be that guy, but the thing that back then made you do, because we didn't have the digital opportunity to run to your smartphone and learn something.
Sure.
We had to pick up a manual, or you had to get next to somebody that maybe knew what they were doing and learn from them, whether it was dad, a neighbor, whatever the case was. But this is what I mean when I tell people I still have a place in my world for analog technology.
Absolutely.
Because analog technology forces you to retain what you learned. Look, If you read it, this, Ron, if you read it in a Chilton's manual or some other repair manual, you retain it, or you still have that book. It's still a reference point.
Yeah.
If you use YouTube or whatever your preferred digital source is, if that's a quick fix, and you're going to forget it the next time you have to do it.
Sure, because you didn't have to do anything to retain that information.
Yeah.
It's instant. We've talked about it before. It's like instantaneous. Everything nowadays is just instant. Go on, watch a video, read a snippet here or there, whatever. But like you said, back in the day, you had to read and understand, and that's why you. Oh, hold on, I gotta go ahead and talk. Say something.
Okay. Well, here we have a slide. Let me see if I can get rid of that. Oh, dadgummit. I'm going to get rid of. Woo, I made everybody disappear. What happened? We're all gone. Whoops. Okay. I don't know how to get back. Oh boy, everybody's gone.
What'd you do?
I don't know. I broke it.
Oh, I'm here. I see you.
Oh, okay, there it is. Anyway, here we have I was trying to get that to move out of there. Let's move this out so we can see it.
Well,
Fix It Yourself manual. And what I love about this is if it, first of all, it was in the Reader's Digest, or
Yes.
it's produced or it's printed by Reader's Digest. And if you look at the bottom, this is why this caught my eye. How to repair, clean, and maintain anything and everything in and around your home.
I only laugh, Mike.
Look at the tray.
I have that book somewhere here in my office. I can't find it right at the moment, but I have that one, and I have the newer edition of that one. So
Wow.
yeah, absolutely, man. I am that nerdy guy that way that I'll sit and I'll spend the morning just reading through that thing, just for advice, or I may be working on a project and I'll be like, okay, well, how can I do this and how can I do that? Dude, solid information in those books.
And I'm telling you, that's that I think is one of the big differences between today and yesterday, and is what we just said. By reading, the other thing that folks like Dad and that generation and generations before him, they took careful notes as they were working on things, or they got something repaired. They took careful notes that they can go back and reference. I still have some of the notes from Dad on things he repaired, the motorcycle, tools, hand tools. I have a notepad that has Dad's notes. I have a 3x5 card file that Daddy wrote notes about every little thing he did, and it's in there. It's freaking awesome.
I had to go renew my concealed weapons permit a couple months ago, and
your what?
I had to go renew my concealed weapons permit a few months ago.
What?
Yeah,
we don't deal with that. We don't deal with that mess here.
God damn Texans. But anyway, so same thing, Mike. I'm going through. I still have Dad's old ammo bag. I open it up, and there's those 3x5 cards with all the 185 grain. How to do this? How to do that? I mean, just it was hilarious. I started cracking up laughing. It was hilarious.
Don't you kind of laugh at it?
Never mind my dog barking his ass off.
That's okay. It's cool, but it's. But don't you? I see you laughing because I do the same thing.
Absolutely.
But then I stand back and go, God, Dad, how fucking cool were you?
But it's one of those things, Mike, is where I'll do shit like that, and then I'll find something like that, and I'm like, that's why, right there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly why I do that.
And this is why I'm getting better at it. But this is why cats like you remember how to do some things, is because we don't immediately run to, the digital sites, the YouTubes or what have you. We don't immediately run to that. I prefer to try to learn it on my own.
Yeah, we didn't have it, man. It was trial by error, man. You broke it down and you hit it right in the head, Mike. If you couldn't fix it, you called somebody, a neighbor or a friend or uncle or whoever that could fix it for you. I remember going down to one time for some reason I couldn't fix something. I took it apart and I went down and had Ralph Bruni help me put it back together.
I went down to Jim Weiss, the guy that lived right behind us that had Nanny the dog.
Dude, Jim was a badass mechanic, dude.
Oh, he was wicked cool, man. If in fact, I think they probably just had the hill climb not too long ago.
Yeah.
Jim Weiss back in our day was building the engines that ran in some of the Wells Coyotes that were ruling the hill climb. He was building Porsche engines for people and dropping them in Volkswagens. It was kind of cool.
Those of you that don't know what that is, that's the race to the clouds, the Pikes Peak Hill Climb in Colorado Springs, Colorado. It's I'm going to tell you one of my biggest memories of that, Mike, was the year. Do you remember who the Audi racer was that won the
Michelle Mouton?
Michelle Mouton, yeah, first
peak. I got it.
First woman to win, and it was the Audi Quattro's first year racing the hill climb, and they just fucking dominated. It was stupid.
I interviewed Michelle that year. In fact, not only did she rock the mountain, but I believe that was the first year that Al Unser Jr. ran the mountain.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So I got the chance to interview for KRDO. That was part of my job. I interviewed drivers. I did a lot of pre-race stuff. And then Oddly enough, one year I provided color for ESPN. But
Nice.
this particular year, I interviewed Michelle Mouton, which was amazing. So here goes Mr. Cool Cat. It was cold that morning, and you're at the starting line, and so Little Al and Bobby Unser Jr. were both on the hill that day, right? So I was still smoking at the time. So I'm smoking a cigarette trying to get the nerve up to go interview Little Al because he's been the talk of the mountain other than Michelle Mouton, right?
Yeah.
So I go up and I said, hey, yeah, Mr. Unser, I'm Mike Stevens. I work for KRDO. And man, I'm going to tell you, we've been reading and hearing an awful lot about you. I'm going into it. And finally the guy stops and goes, nah, I'm the wrong answer. You want that one over there in the truck. So I looked
Deflated.
Oh, man, I was. But here's the coolest part of this story. So I look over, and in this old, well, it wasn't old, but in this pickup truck, in the driver's seat, is Al Unser Jr. because it's cold, and I believe he's smoking. So I go tap on the door, and he reaches over, roll down the window, and I said, hey, how you doing? I'm Mike Stevens. I'm with KRDO. And so he says, hey, man, jump in. It's cold. So we sat in his truck, and I just interviewed him. We just talked like two cats that have known each other for years, man.
Nice.
It was wicked awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I loved the hill climb. I really enjoyed the work I did for the hill climb. But
so, Mike, put the banner back up, if you would, please.
Which one?
The what we're talking about tonight banner.
Yeah.
So earlier, my wife and I always talk about, not always, but I always ask her, give me some insight on what we should talk about tonight, because she's younger than we are, but still in that mix. And one of the things that she said, and this kind of was struck home with me when I saw the disposable today, fixing it then. I can think of nothing bigger than marriage and relationships.
That's actually an interesting concept. I haven't thought about it, including that in this conversation.
Yeah, because that is, let's face it. We have relatives. In fact, we just talked about my Uncle Zeke earlier. I think they've been married, I want to say 57 years, almost 60 years.
Good for that.
And nowadays it's, I think it started, you can look back. I was watching an article about this, about, baby boomers and Gen Xers around that time frame when you really started seeing divorce being a rampant thing. There was so much divorce going on around that time. Prior to that, not so much. So anybody that was married before them, and a lot of them are still married to this day. Nowadays, it's just such a move on. We'll get another one.
Well, look at it this way. And now that you brought that up, Ron, and we're going to get a little off the beaten track, but one of the things that irritates me when you talk about the sanctity of marriage is how it's so bastardized today. And that is, I see commercial and promo for, if they don't get married in 30 days, well, they'll be forced to get married. I hate the term baby mama. I hate the word, the term my baby's daddy. I hate that aspect, but that's me. That's my generation. You're talking to a cat that's been married for 41 years, been with my wife for 43. But when you start monkeying and treating the sanctity of marriage as something to play with and treat as a game, then again, it's part of what we've talked about before. You've just devalued marriage. So what are you telling, kids that are growing up? What are you telling the Gen Z and anybody that comes after that? Look, screw marriage.
Well, I live in as you see, I live in Sin City, and there's a billboard. I won't mention the name of the company, but I will tell you what the billboard says, because my wife and I were driving by, and I looked up and I said, I honestly take offense to that, because it's this billboard. It's a strip club, and it says ruining marriages since 2012. Wow. You know what? I get the pun of it. Yeah. Okay. Is it funny? Yeah, it's kind of. But for a married man, we've been together 18 years, married for 15 years. And it's like, and then your kids see that you can't miss it. It's a freaking billboard on the side of the highway. You can't get away from it.
Oops. Right.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's just deplorable, I think, is the best word I could think
Well,
of.
and I love the fact that you brought it up as a disposable today, fixing it then.
Sure, absolutely.
Look, marriage for us, even back then, is something. Look, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that, Carol and I didn't have troubles early on. We had to
And,
learn
and who
how to be
didn't?
husband and wife. I will tell you that I thank God we battled through it because today this just makes me laugh my ass off. You talk about being able to communicate subliminally.
Oh,
Um,
I bet.
she knows it's scary. It's
Right?
scary how she knows what I'm thinking. And I've even told her that, well, thank God I'm not thinking of anything pornographic or something because it scares the hell out of me. She knows what I'm thinking.
Yep.
It just, I'm telling you, it's scary, but I will also tell you, I wear that shit like a badge.
Sure.
I love it. I love how we're able to, her more so than me. I mean,
Oh, same
she'll,
here. Same
we'll
here.
be, we'll just be sitting there and she'll say, you want this, don't you? And it'll be exactly what I'm thinking. I'm going, what in the hell how do you do that?
Well, Mike, there's the old saying. I don't know anybody that's been married for 60 years that got married and 60 years later woke up and said, man, that was fun.
Yeah. Well, in fact,
It's a job. You get up and you work at it every day.
It's a two-way street, baby. It's a team. It requires teamwork, and
Sure.
this is where I think Carolyn and I excel in our marriage. Is I'm always telling her, I'm so glad you're my teammate.
Sure.
We call each other teammate. I think before we call each other anything else. And that's what it requires. But it brings us back to, and God bless you, because what a beautiful way to put that is, it's disposable then, but requires some work today. Or today and requires work. I don't, it just, again, the way that younger folks view marriage today, it's just problematic. And when you and I are gone, what does this look like? Will anybody, will they be celebrating 5 years? God, that's, how the hell have you managed that?
That's like a record.
I told Carolyn in 5 years the warranty was up. She was on borrowed time.
So you and your warranty. Oh, dude, I used to love those. Oh my God!
I knew I'd put this up here, and I knew you.
God.
Most kids,
Mike, I can, and not to sound weird, I can smell that. Does that make sense to you?
You are outstanding, because that's the first thing I thought was, dude, I think I can smell that thing.
I can smell that. Oh my God, dude! And seriously, I have chills right now, Mike. Chills right now because I.
What did you do? You remember? Do you remember what you made? It says it was like 160-1 is the name of it.
Oh man, I don't know. I was making resistors. I made some stuff for make it like a radio.
You can make a radio with it. You can make a radio.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, God, that's great. But see, that's the shit that kids today should be learning.
Boom! I was just getting ready to say, this is why I love you, man. This is the stuff we ought to be producing and putting in kids' hands today. This right here. Because it would be
like, you want to play with some electronic? Here.
Yeah. Stick your tongue to it. Get that tingle. But no, I think I made a VU meter with it that actually worked.
Yeah.
And but yeah, the AM radio, you're talking about a kid that knew when he was 12 what he wanted to do.
I think that was one of the first things I made out of this was an AM radio. And it had one you can make a light bulb or make some sort of light fixture. The light would come on. Yeah. Oh God, that's great.
Those things were freaking cool, man. I'm telling you, I loved them. But you're right. Great. These are, I'm sorry, Radio Shack's not around anymore. Things like that make me wish to hell they were.
Right.
If I had the money, I'd almost bring shit like this back. Because I think, I so agree with you. If we can put stuff like this into kids' hands today, can you imagine? They I think, would put these down.
Yeah.
And probably screw with that for a while.
Yeah.
And heaven help us, might learn something.
Yeah. I think we've talked about it before, Mike, but back in school having, shop and auto class and home ec and all the stuff they've taken away from it. It's like these younger kids come out not knowing how to do a fucking thing.
No. So this thing here would certainly teach, and what we've already covered for those that are just now hopping on, things we've covered to this point is, you know, we need to teach these kids, and these kids also need to stop running to YouTube. Make that your last ditch effort.
Sure.
Pick up a catalog, get next to somebody that knows what the hell they're doing, learn so that you can retain it. Don't learn it for the moment. I tell the kids I get a chance to speak to on occasion, listen, man, write stuff down.
Yeah.
Figure the answer out and write it down. Get yourself a yellow pad and start writing notes to yourself. Save it for reference. Look, I love reading what Dad wrote, but this is the reason why you do it, because analog technology still provides the opportunity for retention. If you're learning it just for the sake of learning it, for the answer or to learn how, like right now, the next time you need it, I mean, that's where the digital media or the digital resources have just kind of ruined it for everybody.
Well, it kind of
don't misunderstand. I appreciate it. Do I not use it? Yeah, I use it. Now I'll tell you why I pulled this one. Is electronics. Look at the bold up there to the right. Build this aircraft monitor for $3.83. Right?
You can't do shit for $3.83 now,
right? I mean, I bought a
coffee for $3.83.
I'm telling you, dude, I bought a mean bean today, and I think it was $3.50. But look at the bottom: basic service bench for color TV, so you can repair a color TV.
Yep.
Care and repair of cassette recorders. A swinging career in a recording studio.
I'm going to tell you, Mike, when I lived in Lake Tahoe, this was before, these big screen flat TVs, LCDs all came out, when we still had tubed pictures and TVs. And that's what I learned on, man. I had a buddy of mine that lived in Carson City that owned a TV repair shop. And on my days off, I'd drive down there and help him repair TVs. And that's how I learned how the inner parts of a TV worked back then. Nowadays, probably not so much, because it's entirely different now. Everything's digital and LCD and not my jam. But yeah, I mean, when you can actually break it down and look at it and see how it works, way better.
There's value in understanding.
Again, I'm going to tell you what, Mike. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
My neighbor John across the street, he watched his YouTube video on how to do this repair. I will bet money, and I will guarantee you, he learned more in the 20 minutes watching me do it while I had him help watching me do that. He'll retain that better than any fucking YouTube video.
Yep. I will tell you, and this is one of the catalysts for me wanting to do this one tonight. I have a benchtop planer, and it crapped out on me about 3 or 4 months ago. And so I've been trying to save up to buy a new one, right? I wanted the one I have is not bad. It's about a $400 or $500 planer. The one I want,
it just eats thumbs.
The one I right. The one I want is about $800-900, right? So it's been sitting there, and I've been having to plane wood the old school way, the way that I nipped the finger with. And then finally, I'm telling you, one day Daddy popped in my head and said, what's your problem? Go out there and fix that damn machine and make it work. So I did, I did my diligence. I learned about the machine, and I realized, well, hell, it's for what they call bushings. It's just a piece of metal with a hole in it. So I replaced those. I got 2 new chains for it. You know what? It took me 15 minutes, but now I can take this thing apart and clean it and put it back together again in 5.
In a heartbeat.
And I love it, man. I love that aspect of it.
Yep. So, it's just that whole process of once you do it, you're never going to forget it.
Well, and again, it's because we have learned to repair it, to fix it, be it equipment, tools, a marriage.
So, Mike, as kids, how many new cars can you think of that we had as kids?
Oh, new cars? We never had a new car.
Never had a new car. And why is that?
Well, we couldn't afford it, for one thing.
Well, that, and what was the other reason?
Because you can work on them, you can fix them.
You fixed the one you had. Yep. I can remember you were married and long gone, but I remember the newest version of a car that we bought was when Mom and Dad bought that Mustang from Hertz
Yeah,
Car
it's like a
Rental.
rental car company. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember going with him, and I thought, man, we must be rich. We're in a Hertz used car lot,
Right?
not buying something out of the newspaper.
They went to a lot and bought it.
Right? Seriously, dude, that was, and I'm not even joking. That was my train of thought. I'm like, fuck, we must have hit it or something, because we just don't do this.
Carol and I were living in Tennessee at the time. That's what they drove to Tennessee to come see us, was that Mustang. So no, we didn't own. I thought when we got Grandpa and Grandma's old Torino, I thought, wow, we got a new car or newer car. So
I
lucky
love that
you. We always had bombers.
Oh, dude.
Dad's
truck, what was it, 69 Ford F100?
68 Ford F-150.
Was it a 150 or was it a 100?
That was a 150.
150, yeah. And then what was that? What it wasn't a Galaxy. What did Mom drive?
It was a 64 Ford Galaxy.
Was it a Galaxy? The orange bomber?
Yeah, 4-door.
Go ahead, and tell us why we called it the orange bomber.
Because Daddy decided to paint that rascal.
And where did he paint it, Mike?
He painted it at the house.
In the garage.
And hey, look, he painted it Chevy Competition orange, which was cool, right? Until he didn't put the stripe on it, which was kind of dopey. I didn't want to tell Dad that because he put ridiculous forward-facing flames on it. And
well,
then
you were really fast in reverse.
Well, here's the really funny part of this poor story is, and remember, one of us had to drive that car. That's when I turned 16. That's what I got to drive. And so Dad also decided, well, I'm going to shoot some pearl on it. And it was horrible. So this thing, and this is the joke. Did I not write in one of the books, that car really made it hard to do something wrong? Because everybody knew whose fucking car it was.
Like, you were getting away with shit.
You weren't doing anything in that car. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, I think I saw Mike leaving a robbery at the bank.
All you have to do is say, now I will tell you this. I know we're going over. I was working at Village Inn on Academy, and it was 77. This is the year the Broncos were kicking ass with the Orange Crush defense.
Yes.
I drove it to work that day, and I was helping a waitress with one of the big tables, and one of the guys had said something about the orange car outside. So I said, well, sir, are you talking about? And I pointed to it. He says, oh, yeah. Is that your car? I said, yeah. What'd you sell it to me for?
Oh, shit.
Said, really? And now there's no cell phones or anything back then. And I don't know what he offered, but I had to go to the office to call Dad. And I said, hey, Dad, there's a guy here. What this guy wanted to do was buy it. And I think, was it Craig Morton? I don't know who the quarterback was, but he wanted to paint that jersey number on that car because it was already orange. So it was going to be like an Orange Crush car. And so I called Dad, and Dad pretty much said, not just no, but hell no. But then I think Dad thought, oh, man, I'm sitting on a gold mine.
So I remember those Orange Crush cans.
It was just funny.
The year they came out with the memorabilia Orange Crush cans from Dad had a 6-pack of them, and by the time I got done, Dad had a 5-pack of them. And I recall catching hell because of it. And I'm like, it was soda. I was thirsty.
Don't put a razor blade in a baby's crib, Dad. I'm going to play with it.
I mean, we don't normally get this kind of stuff. I thought we were rich again.
Well, hindsight being 2020, you should have poked a hole in the bottom.
Boom.
Just speaking from experience. Poke a hole in the bottom and drink it that
way. From what I've read online, here's what you do.
Yeah, well, remember, we didn't have any resources back then.
No,
trial and error.
I think we were our resources back then.
We were. You did it, and if it worked, cool. If not, don't do it again.
And you tell your friends, hey, here's how you get away with this. And here's how you don't get caught, because I got caught, and here's how I got caught.
Either that or find a dopey older friend that has learned from his mistakes and go learn from that person.
or find the dopey older friend that'll do it for you. Hey guy.
Yeah, what the hell? I bet Matt's doing the same thing too. He's yeah.
But I think the premise of the topic conversation was right on, man. Because back in the day, and I know you hate saying that term, but that's what it is. Back in the day, we fixed everything, man. We didn't go out and just replace it, and that's today we live in a replaceable environment.
We are a disposable society, man.
Amen. I mean, do you remember when cell phones first came out? You remember Gen Xers? We are the last generation to remember a time without cell phones, without internet, without all social media, without all that shit.
Right.
But I remember when cell phones first came out, man. You'd have the same cell phone for years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, shit. Now they run out. 6 months later, a month later, the newer, bigger, badder thing is out.
Computers were the same way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
My first computer was a used one I bought from my producer in Jacksonville, and I think it was a 4K.
Oh wow! Slow down.
Yeah. Oh, I'm telling you, baby. But yeah, technology wasn't moving as fast then as it does today. I mean, you can buy something today, and we all know within 2-3 months, you have an antique.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, look, the computer I use for what we're doing right now is also my audio computer and what I do some video stuff on. And I was looking at it the other day. I kind of have it full. It's got I think I got a 1 terabyte drive on this one, and it's already kind of getting up there. So I put a couple of external drives on it, and they're like, 2 terabyte, another one's 4 terabyte. And I started laughing because I'm getting pissed off about, man, how's this thing only has like 32 gig left, or this one only has like 82 gig left on it. And I start laughing because I think, 4K. I remember having a 4K computer.
Amen.
What am I bitching about? This is good.
But that's just it. That's just the times that we live in now, man. Like I said, everything is instantaneous. You want it right now, bigger, badder, faster, quicker, whatever.
Thank you, Amazon.
Oh, Stu, don't get me started on Amazon. I have such a love-hate relationship with Amazon.
It is a frustration, isn't it?
It is. It is.
I completely get it, man.
It's bad when you're in your garage working and the Amazon truck pulls up and goes, "Hey, Ron, I got a package for you." How do you know my name?
See, I'd be looking at it going, what did she order now?
Right.
I don't order a lot from Amazon.
Shake it?
Right. Meow. Uh-oh. That can't be good.
Good kitty.
Good kitty. All right, man. Well, listen, we're at 43 minutes.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That one's on me. I just got to thinking about that today, about why we are so disposable today, when in many, many, many cases it's more advantageous to just go ahead and fix it. And
I agree.
Whether it's a tool, a piece of equipment, an appliance, or as Ron said, your marriage. Everything. Look, if it was worth having, if you bought it in the beginning, it was clearly worth having.
Sure.
Why wouldn't you want to try to fix it and salvage it?
Sure.
That's where I'm at right now.
My new adventure is going to be, Mike. I've been watching these TikTok videos of people refurbishing furniture, and I am hooked.
Don't you want to try it?
I do. I have a piece up in my garage. I think Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we paid $50 for it. And my neighbor across the street, he does on the side, does like repairs wood stuff. And he goes, dude, a weekend, that bamboo. He goes, that's $1,000 sitting right there.
See, that's crazy. I'm with you. I want to do the same thing. I'm going to go, peruse a Goodwill. I'm going to go. There's an estate sale in a city just about 70, 80 miles north of here. I kind of want to go and poke around a little bit because I've seen the same thing. Look, I have a shop full of tools, man. I mean, I am blessed to have the shop that I have. It's kind of cool, but I really want to do something like that.
You should do a remote. You should do a remote next week.
Maybe this is what you and I do together.
Live from Mike's shop. It's Wednesday night.
Dun, 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 dun.
Seriously, we should do a remote, man. Do a remote in your garage. So I know a part of my conversation I want to talk about tonight, but we'll kick it to next week. Is there's lots of terminology that we use today that nobody knows, especially millennials, Gen Zers, whoever, have no idea where it comes from. Like showing your true colors. Where's that term come from? What this means, where it actually came from.
Yeah, see, and that's let's just I'll be the bull in the china shop.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, fuck you. And actually, it's funny that the term "fuck you" used to actually referred to a term that was "pluck you," YEW. It's an interesting story. I mean, everything that not everything. A lot of the terminology that we use today, or slang sayings that we use today, actually stem from an actual source.
Well, and they have, what your point is they have points of origination.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One derivative of the word "fuck" actually comes from the was it Van Halen did for unlawful carnal knowledge.
Yes.
Well, the reason why that is because back in the day of stocks, when they would put you in the stocks, for those that were found guilty of infidelity, they were put in the stocks, and on the stocks it said "for unlawful carnal knowledge." That's what that person's being punished for.
And you were flogged.
So you take it, and it's FUCK. So they just, but many things. Crapper. John Crapper invented the toilet, but we throw crap around like it's some sort of a offshoot of shit.
Oh, you're just shitting me.
You're just shitting me. Are you shitting me?
The term of like the salute, how the salute came to be.
Well, I had I think I've shared this before. I had a conversation with Pastor Lewis Atkinson at church in Colorado Springs once, and I said, so I'd already asked him about dinosaurs. So he hated whenever I'd ask him these things, because I asked Grandma one time, "Hey, Grandma, what are dinosaurs?"
You asked Grandma about dinosaurs?
I did. I asked Grandma. And so I got to make it quick because I'm almost out of my second one. So I'm asking Pastor Atkinson, because we're talking about language. And I said, "Okay, look, Pastor, I don't know how to ask you this question, but," and I was still learning my faith at that time. And I said, "So if God gave me the freedom of speech, if I taught myself a language, and this is how we learn to communicate, at what point did somebody determine words like shit were filthy? I mean, we had to create that word. And at what point did the F word become filthy? What makes these words? Who sat down with a book and decided, well, this is a dirty word and that's a dirty word?" And poor Pastor Atkinson just looked at me and says, "Michael, I don't know what you're going to do with the rest of your life." He said, "but I don't know how to answer your questions." And because he's the one that told me, he said, "Look, I can't tell you about dinosaurs. You either believe they were dragons or they weren't dragons. You either believe they were put here to confuse people." But when it came to the language, he just said, "I've never in all my years had anybody ask me that question the way you just asked me."
You go, "Go home, boy."
It's pretty much what I heard. Your bus is getting ready to leave. I think we lived on Nadine or something. Your bus is getting ready to leave. You better go get on it. So
I think I hear your mom calling you.
Impossible.
Well, for those of you that joined us, thank you so much. And those of you that watch later on, thank you so much. As always, Mike and I greatly appreciate you. Next week, I promise this week I'll do more promos. Mike, I'm going to hold you to that as well.
I'll try.
And also, next week we'll have a couple of topics to talk about. And if you guys have any ideas, we say it every week. Hop on, leave us a message, shoot us an email, whatever. You our phone numbers, call us, text us, whatever.
I think if you, for those that don't have our contact information, go to I think either Facebook or YouTube channels that we're on, and the link to the email, you can send us an email. I will get them on that account, and we can move from there.
All right. Mike, love you.
I love you
Oh,
too. Before
go
we
ahead,
take
say it.
off, no, I just want to say, Amanda, we're thinking about you, and we love you.
Amen.
I know the battle's getting better and stronger. Matt, Sherry, love you. Something is coming your way. Thank you, Uncle Ken, for being my courier service. And man, I love you, Ron.
Love you too, bud.
Okay, we'll see you next week.
We'll talk to you guys.
Get off our channel. Leave.